Let's talk about ANJI Kills a King. This is an arc. I believe it's publishing... Is it publishing early May? Let's talk about the arc by book talker Evan Leikam, aka like Book Reviews Kill, which I followed him for a while. I like his content and I overall enjoyed this book. But I do think this is going to be a Marmite book, and I feel like a lot of people are going to bounce off it. Why do I think that? And I'm going to try and tell this in the most vaguest way possible, so you're going to have to read it to find out. ANJI Kills a King. So you start off in the first chapter is you don't see her killing the king. She's basically fleeing the chambers, and she had no plan, understood nothing, and just killed him. And the reasonings of why, as you learn throughout, I felt were very, very lackluster and weak. I was like, you could have actually done a little bit more character building and gone deeper into ANJI believing what she thought she believed, and really coming up with this motivation of, well, now she's here, okay, she's already kind of thinking of what would she do if she had the opportunity. Then the opportunity came up and then she did it, but Evan didn't really go down that road, which was fine. But I do think this book should have been a prequel. I think it should have been a prequel novella that you build on from what book 2 is going to end up being. Book 2 is what I suspect is going to be something about revolution, because it's called the Tide series, I think. And the Tide are referenced in this book, but they're not important in this book. And she basically kills the king and she just flees from the castle. She's a servant and she flees, and nobody really, she just escapes. And nobody really stops her, which is fine. And then you have the hawk who catches up with her really, really quickly, which are like these mercenary type things that the king employs, but they're more than just your typical mercenaries. Some have magic, some have this, and they wear these masks mainly because they are meant to remain anonymous. Hello, lovely. Woken up from your nap. So yeah, the hawk catches up with ANJI really, really quickly, which is kind of understandable. And there are a couple of things that I feel like when you look at the end of the book, you're meant to look at the end of the book, and the sort of what Evan was attempting is this heart-wrenching kind of, oh my God, and you're meant to look back on the end to the beginning and be like feeling this kind of sense of grief, right? Where I didn't feel that. I didn't really care for like a lot of this book. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't really care about what was going to happen to ANJI half the time. And I do feel like if there was a little bit more build up, or a little bit more time on the relationship between the hawk and ANJI, it would have been better, because the revelation or the resolution of ANJI being as she is, and then her relationship with the hawk and what happened, and Hawk's decision, because the hawk basically is wanting ANJI for money. So there's a massive price on ANJI's head, and the hawk is like, I'm going to come out of semi-retirement, other mercenaries haven't seen her for a while, to bring ANJI back and claim the gold and then give that to somebody else, right? It's kind of what ANJI wants. That's what the hawk wants. And sort of her revelation to decide against going what she wanted in the first place, it didn't really hold enough meat to it. There wasn't enough there. There wasn't enough relationship building between ANJI and the hawk to really make this book work, at least in my opinion. This is why I do think a lot of people are going to bounce off this book, is there's not enough of this character driving, these strong characters. The book is fine. This was my bedtime read, so I read this on my phone as I went to bed. So I didn't dedicate a whole time to reading it, and I wonder if I did, if I would feel a bit differently. I did do a buddy read with it with a couple of friends. One of them DNF'd it, totally understand it, and the other one finished it and enjoyed it, but more than me. But at the same time, I'm like, I can see what everyone was trying to do. He just wasn't quite hitting that mark. I think he just needed a little bit more. I don't know if it was more time, possibly a couple of extra scenes, just to insert these character moments between ANJI and the hawk to make it work. But there was something else that did also, you know, bother me. Like, I adored the world. I love the world. The world can just continue on, and I absolutely loved it. And the way the magic worked and how all of that happened, it was entertaining and it was exciting and it was cool. That was the most interesting part of the book, not gonna lie. Going into this book, I never thought it would go into graphic detail of somebody getting their finger cut off. And that shocked me. And I don't know if that was the intention of having something like that just be so shocking, or if it was what he intended and the tonal of the story at the beginning didn't match these little moments that appeared. There was a couple of them that appeared, and I don't know what Evan was trying to achieve. I just don't think he quite hit it. Like, I still enjoyed this book. I had a good time, but at the same time it was also, it wasn't quite hitting the mark. So there are a couple of things, and then you have the other mercenaries who all come and catch up, and they were interesting characters. They were the most interesting out of all of them was the ox, the bear, and the goat. And I thought, like, the goat is just unhinged, but you go in and you realise as you meet the others, you're like, oh, he actually isn't as unhinged the others are, but they appear more together. They appear like normal people, the goat just doesn't. So that was really, really interesting, and I loved that side of it. But going through, this cat's dribbled all over me, going through the story, and you're learning more and more about the characters and about everything else that's happening, ANJI was the most boring out of all of them. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the magic system and the drugs that are in this story and how all these things work, fascinating. I loved exploring the world. I did like the fact that ANJI and the hawk were trying to escape, and that ANJI was a prisoner, and that the hawk wanted to keep her for herself and not work with her other mercenary friends. I liked that side of things, and the fact that ANJI generally is a good person as things go, and that she wanted to entice a change in a couple of things. But I do think most of this book could have been told in a prequel novella that added to a larger scale of the story, because I don't think from where this ended that it's going to make much different on the story. I think people are going to go in, they're going to read this, and not a lot happens. You get to like 42%, like my friend who DNF'd it. She got to 42% through, and she's like, I didn't care much. So I actually felt the same. And usually I am a big DNF'er, but I didn't on this one, because I felt there was something coming, and I was kind of right. And the action scenes, impeccably written. I loved how he wrote them. The writing was really, really good. So I do think if you are going to be one of the people who are going to bounce off this book, is I would try Evan again as he goes through his career, because I definitely think, again, you can see this a lot of time with debuts. On a book 2, they learn so much more than what they did in a book 1. And I kind of see this is probably where this is going to go. And I do hope that he delves more deeper into his characters than what he did in this, because some of them were good. They were enjoyable, but they weren't sort of like revolutionary. They weren't like, oh, I really like these characters. This is a book that, you know, it's entertaining at the time, but I also will probably easily forget it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I'd go back and reread it. And the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, well, actually, maybe I didn't love it as much as I thought. There was just some things that I could see the potential, and I just don't think Evan quite hit it with it all. And everything was very, very action-packed, with very minimal character moments that in between. The moments where the characters, I call them sitting around the campfire moments, where you learn more about each other. There was very, very little of that, which I think if there was more of that, the ending would have more of an impact from what happened between the hawk and ANJI in themselves. And, you know, we don't really get a full glimpse of what the whole other world thinks, or other people, or what the actual societal thing is. We get a glimpse, like a little bit. So there is you have the king, who's now dead, who was basically a puppet on the throne, and the one person stopping the religious faction from gaining more power. So now the religious faction is gaining more power, and it's kind of like, oh, okay. Which, that again, it is fascinating in and of itself, even though I hate religion. Like, seeing stuff like this, it's your claws, is entertaining. It's fascinating to read about, as much as I hate it at the same time. So that was that. But then, you know, there are moments that happened, and things and decisions that the hawk made, that I was like, hang on a minute, you're doing this for a greater good, but you're willing to just kill anybody who gets in your way. That's a little bit, I don't know, I don't understand it. Magic system was interesting, but again, I do think this is definitely a book that a lot of people are going to struggle with, purely because it takes a lot to get into and to understand and to connect. Maybe not connect, but to find a deeper kind of depth to these characters and to have those character moments. If you're not a character reader and you're a plot reader, you'll probably really enjoy this. But if you're a character reader, like I am most of the time, you will struggle so much with this because there is very little character moments. There is little character driven stuff that happens. It's all very plot driven, which I like a good plot when it's mixed with the decent characters and well-rounded and in-depth characters, and this just didn't have it. It did not have it. So it was fine. And there's a couple of people I've known who have read it who have said feel kind of the same way as me. So I do feel like when this comes out, a lot of people are going to expecting a lot from it and they're going to be disappointed. So try it because you might like it. This would be a very good, what I would class as a very palate cleanser book. It's very minimal of what's happening. It was fine. You could predict most of everything was going to happen, which is also not a bad thing. But if you're going into this expecting this big epic thing or this big deep character moments or these big, you're not going to get that. And I didn't go into it expecting that, but I do like a bit more meat to my characters than what was delivered here. And the thing is, he tried and it was there. Like, the cake was right there with these characters to be deep and have these moments, and Evan chose not to put them in. I'm not going to go into, I don't know why he did it. I don't know. But he chose not to. And on that case of things, that's where I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit disappointed in kind of what I expected from this, because I thought it'd be a little bit more, I don't know, more, you know, or I'd liked it a lot more, okay, because it sounded kind of fun. And this is kind of the book it is. It's a fun book. I probably would also class this as here for a fun time, not thought time kind of thing. You know, you're going in, you're just having a fun time as you're reading it. You might not go back to reread it, but I did also have a really good time with it. You know, once I got past a little bit of sticky bits and things started coming through, which again is kind of the 42% mark, which is a lot to ask people to put up with. It was fun. It was fun. It was entertaining. It entertained me, which if you're writing a book just to entertain somebody, you hit the nail on the head, right? So I hope this review has kind of helped you. I can't really go into much more thought without going into spoilers. I would love to talk spoilers about this book and to give my full thought on this, but alas, I can't. But if you've read this book, let me know and we can have a discussion down below. And if this book is, if you think you're going to enjoy this book, let me know. But I do hope more people are going to like it than what the early readers are kind of showing, because it had potential. I just don't think it hit its mark. Well, me and Fang are going to go and I'm going to read some other books. Hopefully they're a little bit better than this one. But again, I had a good time. I hope you enjoyed this. You know the drill. Comment down below. If you've gotten this far in the video and I don't know what, and you don't know what to comment, just do a knife emoji down below for ANJI killing the king. And on that note, I will see you in the next one.